Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty intense. We're going to objectively deconstruct a highly charged, extremely partisan piece of internet commentary. Our goal? To map out the specific ideological roadmap this creator is laying out. We're looking straight at the raw transcript of a recent viral broadcast to see exactly how this corner of the internet views today's political landscape, step by step. Now remember, we aren't here to take sides. We're just here to analyze the arguments, the rhetoric, and the ultimate goals they're presenting in the source material. Let's get into it.
So here's our roadmap for today's analysis. We're going to hit 5 key areas. First, Trump's GOP primary influence. Then, the defeat of the RINOs. Third, some big claims about demographics and immigration. Fourth, media framing and authoritarianism. And finally, we'll look at the creator's ultimate vision.
All right, Section 1, Trump's GOP primary influence. To set the stage, the creator brings up a specific poll asking if the U.S. is a force for good or evil in the world. And wow, just look at the massive partisan divide here. According to the source, Republicans say the U.S. is a force for good by a huge plus 62 margin, while they claim Democrats actually lean toward force for evil by plus 2. For the creator, this isn't just a random data point, it's actually the absolute foundation of their entire worldview going forward. Building off those exact numbers, the commentary claims the political left has essentially fallen for a massive psyop, a psychological operation. The source argues forcefully that America is objectively a force for good, and they anchor this belief in the nation's biblical foundation, our historical humanitarian aid, and the toppling of foreign dictators. Because of this stark divide in perception, the creator lands on a pretty definitive conclusion. They genuinely believe Democrats fundamentally hate American values, which means, in their eyes, any traditional political unity is just absolutely impossible.
Moving right along to Section 2, the defeat of the RINOs. Shifting gears from the political left to internal Republican Party battles, the source highlights some recent primary elections, specifically pointing out the state of Indiana. They point out that Trump-endorsed challengers like Blake Furr completely crushed incumbent Republicans, the folks the creator likes to label as RINOs or Republicans in name only, like Travis Holdman, and they didn't just edge them out. The creator really emphasizes that these were massive 20-point margins. They're using this huge gap as undeniable proof that the conservative base is permanently rejecting moderates in favor of strictly America First candidates.
And this next part brilliantly illustrates the creator's mindset. When defeating incumbents warned about revenge and retribution after these elections, the creator fired back, flat out claiming that retribution is, in fact, a Christian value. They completely reject the mainstream media's framing that Trump's influence is evidence of an authoritarian cult. Instead, they explicitly view these primary defeats as voters righteously demanding accountability. To them, elected politicians are literally just employees who failed at their jobs. And now, well, they're being unceremoniously fired by the boss, the American people.
Let's jump into Section 3, demographics and immigration claims.
The creator really anchors their demographic theory on this specific data trajectory. If we trace the Democrat margin of victory among Hispanic voters, there's this dramatic shift. It drops from a plus 40 advantage back in 2018, steadily declining all the way down to a projected plus 2 by the year 2026. The creator uses this downward trend to project a near future where Hispanic voters largely cross the aisle and vote Republican. And based on that math, they predict the political left will soon completely flip and demand a border wall themselves entirely out of self-interest once they realize immigration no longer guarantees Democratic votes.
From there, the source pivots over to Ohio, bringing up the number 88. That represents the 88 counties Vivek Ramaswamy reportedly swept in a Republican primary against an anti-Trump challenger named Casey Pooch. The creator uses this absolute, undeniable sweep to hammer home the idea that running as an anti-Trump Republican in today's climate is basically a guaranteed path to total electoral defeat.
Now here is where things take a really striking turn in the source material. Even though they just praised Ramaswamy's 88-county primary sweep and acknowledged how popular he is, the creator explicitly states they do not want him in government at all. They label him a foreigner, despite his American birth, and call his presence in office a literal national security threat. The creator actually takes this a step further, aggressively critiquing J.D. Vance just for voting for Ramaswamy, and they even bring up Vance's Indian wife as a point of contention. Because of this extremely hardline nativist stance, the creator openly says they would prefer Marco Rubio over J.D. Vance for the 2028 ticket.
Okay, Section 4, media framing and authoritarianism.
The creator then breaks down 2 totally contrasting political ads to make a point about California and modern political messaging. On the left side, they ruthlessly mock Katie Porter's gubernatorial ad. They criticize her for framing herself as a relatable single mom with a high-mileage minivan, and they highlight her admission that illegal immigration is essentially the only reason California's population is currently growing. On the flip side, they absolutely champion Spencer Pratt's mayoral ad, which focuses starkly and exclusively on fighting crime and removing homeless populations from the streets. For the creator, this sharp contrast perfectly sums up what they see as the weak, failing policies of the left versus the hardline, necessary alternative offered by the new right.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the creator's ultimate vision.
At this climax of the explainer, the creator drops all pretense of traditional partisan politics and unapologetically lists out these extreme objectives. They are advocating for the absolute deportation of all third-world migrants, explicitly stating that even if it's a personal friend who is in the country illegally, quote, she has to go. They completely dismiss any constitutional or humanitarian concerns as inherent weakness. Furthermore, they outline a goal to elect strict religious leaders to enforce biblical morality from the top down. They openly call for repealing the 19th Amendment to end universal suffrage, and they even suggest building asylums to house people involved in the societal shifts they disagree with.
So the crucial point is summarized perfectly right here, in the creator's own words. They literally want to use the democratic process to actively dismantle it. This represents a worldview that actually thinks Donald Trump is far too moderate for the current moment. While they certainly give Trump credit for aggressively shifting the Overton window, the creator insists the political left has absolutely no idea how radicalized their generation has become. They are looking way past standard conservative talking points toward a complete systemic overhaul of the American Republic.
As we wrap up this explainer, we've got to look at the bigger picture. We just traced this logic from standard primary politics straight down into explicit calls for the abolition of universal suffrage. So, the question we're left with is this. As this deeply polarizing, unapologetic digital rhetoric racks up millions of views and cultivates a highly dedicated audience, how exactly is it going to influence the mainstream political landscape in the years to come? Will this stay safely on the fringes of the internet, or are we looking at the new accepted blueprint for future election cycles? Thanks for watching, and as always, keep questioning the source.